Hi guys and welcome back to RedStone Productions. Today we are reviewing a brand new product from Stam Audio, the SA76D+. In case you haven't watched our first 1176 review and comparison video we shot a couple of years ago, I strongly suggest to go ahead and watch that first. In that video you will find our explanation of all of the different revisions, and also you can see our comparison between the SA76 Blue Stripe Revision A against the WA76, the Warm Audio's take on 1176 Revision D. What we're covering today instead is Stam Audio's first take on an 1176 Revision D. In the past, they did an 1176 ADF, which was pretty much three different revisions in one unit, including the revision A, D, and F. But this 1176 is probably the closest to the 1176 from Universal Audio Revision D. But what Stam Audio is trying to put onto the market is not only a very faithful Revision D, but also two extra features that will make this compressor probably the most flexible compressor in our arsenal. Available and on stock right now, it's selling for $11.90 US, plus import taxes where applicable. What sets the SA76D+ apart from all of the other clones onto the market, aside from being a very faithful recreation of the 1176 Revision D, is the super slow attack that will allow you to compress without slamming the transients, super handy for bass, kick, and as we'll see in the examples, also for vocals. This feature was actually also present on the anniversary edition that Universal Audio brought onto the market a few years back. The other unique feature of this SA76D+, it's the additional tube output stage that you can engage by pulling out the output knob itself. This is a complete discrete output stage with a tube running at high voltage and a kernel transformer, completely separate from the traditional Sauter output stage transformer. What this will give you is, of course, something that maybe the Blue Stripes, the Revision A, are being revered for, which is the extra THD, but it's done a little bit differently. In fact, on a Blue Stripe, you will find this harmonic distortion appearing on the actual compression circuit, while in this case we are still compressing with the clean, fast Revision D circuit, but we can then, after the compression has happened, engage a tube output stage, which will increase our secondary harmonics. On top of this, of course, what I always love to do with 1176 is also to use them as line amplifiers. And for this use, of course, I can simply decide if I want to run into the normal output stage or the tube, which will give me a little bit of an extra low-end bump, of course, with its kernel transformer and 12A17 tube. So I can simply disengage the ratios and I can use this unit as a line amplifier. And if I want to get some secondary harmonics, I can just pull out the output stage and this will give me a nice little bump on the lows and some extra harmonic distortion on there. So super flexible units. Output stage and super slow attack. Now that we discussed all of the different extra features, it's time to actually demonstrate the output stage and its glorious THD that adds to the signal. So I'm just feeding the actual unit with a sine wave of 50 Hz, and I'm looking at the output of the actual unit with a span meter, so with the frequency analyzer. And as you can see, as soon as I actually increase the amount of output, you will start seeing a tiny little bit of harmonic distortion. But as soon as I switch into the additional tube output stage, boom, a lot of galore happens. A lot of secondary harmonics are appearing onto our span meters. And again, of course, the more I push the output stage, the more of those will come out. In theory, I should only have a sine wave in there, a 50 Hz, but all of those are all harmonics that the actual unit is generating. As soon as I push it back in, so this is with the normal output stage maxed out, and this is with the output stage with the tube and the additional kernel transformer. So fairly different. You can see that also at lower levels, some of these will appear, but you actually do have to push the output stage a little bit more in order to see and hear it. This is one of the two extra features that we'll find on our unit. So now that we have defined the actual design of the unit, it is time to play some examples and see how it actually sounds. We also have another 1176 Revision D clone from Warm Audio, the WA76. So you will hear some examples of the SA76D+ against the WA76 as well.
Sometimes you feel like a motherless child. 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 Sometimes you feel like a motherless child.
If you hold that power in your hands, you shouldn't be such a selfish man. Just listen to me, I got few words to say. If you hold that power in your hands, you shouldn't be such a selfish man. Just listen to me, I got few words to say. If you hold that power in your hands, you shouldn't be such a selfish man. Just listen to me, I got few words to say. If you hold that power in your hands, you shouldn't be such a selfish man. Just listen to me, I got few words to say. If you hold that power in your hands, you shouldn't be such a selfish man. Just listen to me, I got few words to say. If you hold that power in your hands, you shouldn't be such a selfish man. Just listen to me, I got few words to say.
So honestly, I'm really impressed with this unit. It's an 1176 with all of the extra features you always wanted. It's sort of like the Swiss Army knife of compression. It's always been like that with 1176 because you can go very, very fast and you can go fairly slow as well. Now you can go very slow as well, and you can also change the output stage, making it sound like a tube 1176, which is unheard of. If we compare it with the WA76, it's pretty clear, of course, they're starting from a different price point, with the WA76 selling for $700 US versus $1190 US for the SA76D Plus. If we're comparing just the Revision D versus Revision D, they're not so far away. I still tend to prefer the SA76 because of the operations, and that's something we can also quickly discuss. I don't know if you see, but if you rewind the video, you will see that the actual input and output knobs are set up a little bit different. In fact, I'm hitting the machines equally with the same loudness, with the same level, but I have to pretty much push the 1176 from Stam Audio a little bit more and back off with the output, while the WA76, it sort of needs a little bit less, well, quite a lot less inputs, but then you need to push the output quite a lot more. So already there, I see a huge difference between the two units. I'm not such a big fan of the sensitivity on the input stage of the WA76, while the SA76 will give you a much bigger range to play with. We know that the 1176 have a fixed threshold. You increase the input in order to go over it and start compression happening. Well, on the WA76, that threshold is set up super low. So pretty much as soon as you engage the inputs, you will go over that threshold. This has a plus that you can do a lot of compression, even too much, while on that guy you have much more headroom before going over that threshold. So to me, that's a little bit more useful. The SA76 for $1190 versus the WA76 for $700 is the clear winner. The reason for it is the different sensitivity on the input and output stage, which makes it a little bit more flexible. And on top of that, the transformers they're using in here, 2 Souther on the input and output, and 1 additional Carnial on the tube output stage, makes these units sort of like compete in another league. And if you add on top of that also the super slow, well, this will make this 1176 by far the most flexible, fat compressor on the market. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe. Until the next time.